Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum, so we'll start with introductions, and we'll start here on my left-hand side with my fellow Andrew. You want to go ahead?
Andrew Golden, Town of Davidson.
Heather Maloney, Town of Huntersville.
Matt Kirkendall, City of Statesville.
Sophie King, Town of Mooresville.
Emily Hines, Village of Wesley Chapel.
Bjorn Hansen, Union County.
Todd Huntsinger, Indian Trail.
Aaron Tucker, Town of Cornelius.
James Kelly, Town of Waxhaw.
Justin Russell, Town of Stallings.
Andrew Ventresca, Town of Troutman.
Travis Johnson, CRTPO.
Justin Carroll, Charlotte DOT.
Candace Rory, Charlotte Planning.
Dan Lever, Charlotte General Services.
Diane Thomas, Mecklenburg County Public Health.
Dave Campbell, Charlotte DOT.
Megan Green, Mecklenburg County Air Quality.
Gwen Cook, Greenway Focus Area.
Sarah Poplin, Charlotte DOT.
Brian Horton, Katz, MTC Rep.
Sean Epperson, NCDOT, Division 10.
Dana Sujanki, Town of Matthews.
Justin Williams, Town of Mint Hill.
Cook, CRTPO.
Erica Martin, City of Statesville.
Barrett McCully, CRTPO.
Olin Dalehousen, Pond Company.
Millie Shao, Pony Company. Leah Walsh, CRTPO. Allison Fluid, Killinghorn.
Neil Burke, CRTPO. Will Snyder, CRTPO.
Yolanda DeLong, Transmit Consultant.
Lee A. from NCDOT Division 10.
Aaron Usual, last name. Ubazuba, DHP. Carly Name, Charlotte DOT.
Andy Christie's at Line.
John Conn, Bolton, and Maine. Rusty Balls from Bell Associates.
Jennifer Stafford, CRTPO. Peter Thompson, CRTPO.
And Bryson just walked in from Monroe. So, okay. Next, we have to adopt the agenda. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda this morning?
So moved.
Do we have a second? All in favor? And it looks like it passes. Thank you. Next item is to adopt the consent agenda, which consists of the approval of the January 8th minutes, the tip amendments that were included in your packet, and the 2026 safety targets and transit performance targets, which were presented last month by Will Snyder. Do we have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
We have a second? All in favor? All right, motion passes. Thank you. We have one business item this month. It's the 2025 discretionary funds project call. We're looking for a recommendation this time. We've heard this information quite a few times, so it'll be a brief presentation. Okay, we are looking for a recommendation that we approve the list for the 2025 annual call and also adopt the required tip amendments that go along with it. So this is just kind of a review of what we have. We do have $51.5 million in order to allocate, and you can see it's from fiscal year 29 through fiscal year 31. These roadway projects should look familiar. We've got two shortfalls, one from Mooresville, one from Waxhaw, and then we have a couple new projects from Mooresville, Huntersville, Matthews, and Wesley Chapel. The amounts you can see on the chart up here, we've gone over the amounts before. Total for the roadways in general is going to be just under $16 million requested. So for our bike ped projects, we do have one shortfall from the city of Charlotte, and then we've got a few new projects, Matthews, Mecklenburg County, Monroe, and Mooresville. Again, the amount values are on the chart in front of you right now, also in the packet. Total requested for the bike ped projects is just over $10 million. And then we do have some planning projects, which you see in front of you. The total is about $600,000 for the planning projects. Two from Huntersville, one from Cornelius, planning study from Statesville, and one from Central Lina. So we are looking at a total of 25, roughly 25.5 million requested from the 51 that was available. So unprogrammed would be about 25. So we're looking at about half of it that we're looking to program this year. We will roll this into next year, the 25 available. So as we've done in the past, just give a heads up. We are starting with a good balance for next year. So start the wheel spinning, and we should have a good amount to allocate for next year. But with that, we are looking for this motion, and I'll open it up for any questions. Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. And I'll call up Neil and Merrick to give the next informational item, which is update on the MTP.
Thank you, Andrew. Good morning. So we are nearing the end of the 2055 MTP. This is just an information report this month. There will be action requested before the TCC to approve the MTP next month, along with the air quality conformity determination. So I'll cover those two documents briefly. I'll turn it over to Merritt for phase 3 of the public engagement process, and then we'll close out with looking ahead. So a lot of the work to develop the plan was done last year by the advisory committee in conjunction with staff and Kimley Horn. You can see the scenario planning, revenue forecasts were done in the first quarter of last calendar year. The congestion management process was handled last summer. The project evaluation was conducted at this time last year, and then we developed the fiscally constrained project list. That was the focus of the second phase of public engagement last summer. And then here we are on the third phase of public engagement, which is the focus of the draft document. So there are 9 chapters within the 2055 MTP. The format really kind of mirrors the 2050 MTP, other than making the congestion management process its own chapter. That was a recommendation from FHWA. The air quality conformity determination is required because of our status in maintenance here. It was conducted simultaneously with the other MPOs in the region. It was found to conform with the purpose of the North Carolina State Implementation Plan, and the anticipated emissions from the implementation of the MTP are in conformity with the 8-hour ozone standard. So that report is posted to our website. And again, the phase 3 of public engagement is focused on the draft MTP report as well as the conformity determination report. So when we take action next month to recommend this, it's not only recommending the MTP report, but it's also that air quality conformity that's based upon the fiscally constrained project list. So on to the interesting stuff. I will turn it over to Merritt with phase 3 of the public engagement.
Thank you, Neil. And I think we can all agree that it's interesting stuff. So going on to phase 3 engagement, though, this is our third and final phase of engagement. So you might see one change from the last time we talked about this, which is the end date of our phase 3 engagement. We extended it by a week from February 10th to February 17th in order to accommodate those who weren't able to make it to our pop-up events by the inclement weather. So we've rescheduled one pop-up event and one community presentation since last weekend's weather events. And so the purpose of the third phase of our public engagement is to once again address the previous stage of the MTP, because we want each phase to connect together and to review the actual draft document. And so our activities look pretty similar to phase 2 in that we had some pop-up events as well as digital surveys. We also had 2 webinars, one in English and Spanish, and those were the main means by which we were able to interface with the community digitally. And those are still available on our YouTube and will be available on our YouTube page for anyone who wants to view those. For a look at some of our pop-up events, so unlike our previous pop-up events, these ones are really more for explaining the process of coming up with the MTP and explaining the draft document. So these aren't necessarily for residents to suggest projects or anything like that. It's more to say, this is a document or the draft document that we've come up with. What are your comments on that? And so working with our consultant partners, we created this schedule of different places across our planning area, and we coordinated these pop-ups with different programs that were already happening, whether it was a mahjong group happening at a library or an open gym happening at a YMCA. So we really wanted to make it so that while we did advertise for this on our social media, we were really catching people who aren't just locked in on transportation planning updates, to get more of that candid community feedback. And so we do still have a few left, including one at Marshfield this afternoon. And then we have 5 pop-ups after that. We also included some hot cocoa at a few of these. And I was told that those were our most popular events. So we do have 2 more hot cocoa events at Eastway Rec and at Hickory Grove Library, if anyone's interested in viewing the MTP while enjoying some hot cocoa. And so here's a few pictures of those pop-up events done with Kimley Horn and Civility Localized. There's me in the center picture talking to an individual from the community who actually came specifically to that YMCA to learn about the MTP, which really warmed my heart because usually I was just expecting people who were there for the Y, as well as our elected official from Matthews. So really proud of the work that we've done so far. For those who haven't taken a look at the draft MTP, this is what it looks like. So rather than having a regular PDF of the document on the website, we have a more interactive version in which you can go chapter by chapter and see in a more easily and to digest and less intimidating format the draft MTP. And so, as always, we have a few survey questions to people to see what they think of the draft document. And these were the questions that we included in that survey, trying to keep it relatively brief so that we were getting the most important data from folks. And so those are the 4 questions that we were asking in our survey. And these are some of the results of how we were able to reach folks. Really looking at those visits to the survey site, in which we had 300. And I will note that these are our results to this point. So we still have, once again, a little bit of time left up to February 17th to get more visits to the site and more comments on the MTPs. So we have that survey site, which I shared earlier. We also have our general 2055mtp.org site, to which we had 1,779 visits. And of those 300 visits to our survey site, because the MTP is a big document, so some people might visit it multiple times, we had 192 individual visitors to that site. So casting a pretty wide net for such a large document, I think. And then we had 30 views of both of our webinars on YouTube. And I'll pass it back to Neil for looking ahead.
Thank you, Merritt. So again, we've extended phase 3 public engagement to end February 17th. We do have another in-person presentation to the Matthews Joint Environment and Advisory Committee that'll be on February 16th. So looking forward to that engagement. And then, as I mentioned, there will be action on the March agenda to recommend that the board adopt the 2055 MTP and make an air quality conformity determination. So with that, that concludes our presentation. Happy to take any questions.
A couple questions. One for Merritt. At all your pop-ups, are you ready to speak Spanish with the public? I know you showed us you can speak Spanish really well at an earlier meeting, but do you always have someone there who can speak Spanish?
So we don't always have someone there who speaks Spanish. I did appear at one of them and will be appearing at the one tonight. But the 2055 MTP website is translatable, as well as the draft itself.
Okay, yeah.
Website.
The reason I asked is I was going to bring my partner to one of these who speaks Spanish as a first language, and I was going to put your Spanish to the test, but
Claro que sí.
We'll coordinate that one. Neil, a question for you. As I've said before, I come from California and it's the San Francisco Bay Area that is way out of conformance with clean air laws. It has a much higher transit usage than Charlotte does. Can you just give me a summary, since it looks like we have some time, or just an overview? How does Charlotte achieve this with a much higher single occupancy drive mode share?
It's really based in the parameters that are set by the EPA for North Carolina, and we have a state implementation plan that sets the kind of the limit of ozone for our metro area. And it's not just CRTPO, it's Cabarrus, Rowan, and Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln. We all have kind of that max, and we have to stay under that max. And so far, this is the fourth MTP I've done here. We've been able to achieve that. And so a lot of that is set by federal standards and then at the state level. And then we just need to make sure that we demonstrate the conformity to that.
Are those standards different state to state?
That I would assume so, but I'm not sure, in terms of the parameters. The air quality conformity determination report on our website has all the parameters as well as the appendices. They contain that specific information.
I don't doubt it. I mean, having lived here 3 years and there many more years, the air here is way cleaner, but I'm still surprised. How do we do it? If anyone knows, let me know.
Have any more questions? All right, thanks, guys. Okay, our last informational item is going to be an update on the 2027 UPWP, and we'll bring up Bob Cook.
Morning, everyone. We talked about the UPWP somewhat at length at yesterday's transportation staff meeting, so this presentation should be relatively brief. And in your agenda packet, you had a memo as well as the funding sources and projects table. So this, like yesterday, kind of follows the memo and to a certain degree, the funding sources and projects table. So today's, the purpose of today's presentation is to review the second draft. So we'll talk about the funding summary, that funding sources table, and then go into some next steps. The funding summary really hasn't changed a whole lot, except for the fact that we did correct an error that was in last month's information. So that total you see down there in the lower right-hand corner is the correct total. Otherwise, really nothing else has changed. In terms of the funding sources and projects table, getting into the specifics there, it shows all the allocations across the board, the PL and the STB GDA funds, Section 5303 funds, the carryovers, and the local projects. And we won't be talking about the local projects today because in your action earlier, you endorsed all those local projects. So we'll, like we've been assuming all along, so they'll be incorporated into the document as they are all have been all along. The biggest takeaway in this is that the proposed allocations for FY27 are very similar to the allocations for FY26. We talked a lot about a little bit yesterday. The biggest difference is probably in the planning process category. And as I mentioned yesterday, that's a kind of a catch-all or a kitchen sink type category. It covers a lot of different topics, a lot of what the MPO is required to do. So we're anticipating work related to the Comprehensive Transportation Plan 2.0 process, performance-based planning. That's one of our key initiatives for next year. The Beyond 77 project and some of the implementation of some of the strategies and solutions, and then implementation of the Regional Transportation Planning Program, plus all the other things that fall under the planning process category. So that increase was about, I think, of $205,000, if I'm not mistaken. And then we also we're proposing about a $20,000 increase in the land use modeling community viz category. We are hoping to implement new processes this year or next year for related to community viz and getting ready for the next plan update process. And then there was also a modest increase under management operations. That's kind of the other kitchen sink category as well. So this is to the next couple of slides to show what the table looks like. It's in your agenda packet. I'm only focused here on the Section 104 FPL dollars and the DA dollars. We've talked about the 5303 allocations in the past. They are mentioned in your agenda packet. Nothing has changed there. The carryovers and the local projects, no changes there. But this lays out where we propose to spend the dollars next year. One thing that we will be continuing, and we mentioned this yesterday and it bears repeating today, the traffic data program. We're continuing it despite the fact that it hasn't gotten a lot of usage other than Dana and Matthews. Dana understands and appreciates the program, so thank you, Dana. But it hasn't gotten a lot of use in the past few years, but we're going to continue funding it. However, Kendall and I will be working on perhaps ways to maybe make some changes to the program and broaden it into more of a technical services program, unless there's a flood of interest suddenly in the traffic data program, and then we'll see what we have to do based upon that happening, if it does indeed happening, does indeed happen. But those are the layouts. You see the local projects there. And then that's pretty much what we're dealing with here with the second draft. Again, not a lot of changes from FY26 to FY27. So stability probably is the key word here. And that's probably reflective of the fact that, as we've said many times, much of what the CRTPO does, and any NPO does, is required under federal law and to a certain degree state law, and it's done on a cyclical basis. That's why things are generally pretty stable from fiscal year to fiscal year. So what we have to do next, working on the document design, we'll be finalizing the task code descriptions, the text in the document. We'll be going to the board later on this month with a second draft presentation, and then coming back to you with a request for a recommendation to the board to adopt the FY27 work program. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions for Bob? All right, thank you.
Very good, thank you.
All right, we've reached the end of our information reports. Your packet included the updates from Division 12 and Division 10 as always. There will be a bike ped work group meeting this afternoon at 2. That agenda was included in your packet. And we do not have any upcoming issues. So being that we're about 25 minutes into this and we're done with the agenda, I'll open it up for any comments to the board, or if anybody wants to sing or try out for Carpo's Got Talent, feel free. But do we have any additional comments from TCC members? All right, well, I guess we are adjourned. Thank you.